right, so now we're going to solve them. So when we solve and, the first one we're going to look at is solving an and inequality. And there's two different ways to solve and inequalities. And I'm going to go through two methods. So I'm going to call this one method number one. And then I'm going to call the second one method number two. And we're going to practice both of them. And then in the end, you're going to decide which method you prefer. Okay, so looking at method number one. So what they did is they have, I have my inequality right here. So with this method, what they did is they created two and inequalities. So one and inequality, so do you see this is the part they share? Both those, they share that middle part. So they wrote this first and inequality. So they said a -4 is less than x minus 2. So that's one of the and inequalities. In my second and inequality, they took that part they shared and they applied it to the other inequality sign. So they said x minus 2 is less than 3. So they just broke it apart into two separate inequalities and they wrote the word between it. So now you have two separate inequalities. So now you're going to solve each inequality. So my first one here to solve it, I added the 2 to each side because I need to get that variable by itself. So once I added the 2 to each side, this simplified down to 0. So I have x then is greater than a -2. My second inequality, again, I'm going to add the 2 to the other side because I need to get the variable by itself. So when I add the 2 to the other side, I come up with x is less than 5. And so now I'm going to write it as an and inequality. So I have here, I wrote the word and again between the two. So I know I need to write my and inequality. And so I'm just going to replace, I'm going to put my x in the middle. And then I'm going to put my inequality sign and my number. So x is greater than a -2 and less than 5. So now I'm going to graph it. I know that these are both open circles. So I'm going to put an open circle at -2 because that's my minimum. And I'm going to put an open circle at 5 because that's my maximum. And now I'm going to go ahead and connect them. So that is method number one. Okay, let's look at method number two. So this here is method number two that we're going to use. Okay. Okay, so this method, I'm not breaking the inequalities apart and writing two separate inequalities. But what I'm doing is whatever I do to that middle information, I have to do it to all the sides of the inequality. So here I have in the middle here, the part they share, I have that -2x plus 1. So I know that I need to clear it to get x by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract that 1. So I subtract the 1 from the middle because I want it to be 0. I subtract the 1 from the 9, it becomes 8. I subtract the 1 from the -3, so I add them together. The signs are the same, so it is a -4. So, and then what's also important is to bring these inequality signs down. So keep bringing the inequality signs down. So I'm going to just draw arrows for you. So now what I want to do, I'm just going to kind of shield it. So the next thing I want to do is I need to clear that -2. So I'm going to divide all the sides by a -2. But remember, when we divide by a -2, we have to flip those signs. So when I divide here by a -2, I divide here by a -2, and I divide that 8 by a -2, I have to reverse the signs. So this sign and this sign, oh, sorry about that, they did it. Those signs get reversed. So now, one thing with absolute value, we always, not absolute value, one thing with inequalities, we always want the smaller number to the left. So that's what they did here. They flipped this 4 to the left because that's our smaller number. So when they flipped it over, they had to flop that inequality sign. So then when they flipped the 2 over, they had to flop that inequality sign. So this reads x is greater than or equal to -4 and less than 2. So my smaller number is -4 and it includes 4. So I'm going to just put my dot on my number line. My larger number is 2 and it's an open circle. It does not include 2. And then I'm going to connect them together. Okay, let's just practice this. All right. So the progress monitoring, we're just going to practice these two ideas. So on the progress monitoring, let's look at numbers 3 and 4. So let's go ahead and look at numbers 3 and 4. And so what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve 3. And so everybody write 3 on your paper right now. I'm going to go ahead and use the method 1 on number 3. All right, so let's use the method 1 here, just because I want you to try both methods, okay, to see which one you like. So if I use method 1, I know that I'm creating 2 inequalities. And I'm writing the word and between them. So I have my 2 inequalities. And now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to solve each of those inequalities. So I'm going to subtract the 4, and I'm going to subtract the 4. So I can see now that I have m is greater than or equal to 1 and less than 6. So I'm going to go ahead and graph it. Put the arrowheads at the end of your number line to show it goes on and on and on. And so now I know that that one endpoint is 1 and it's a closed circle, and the high point here is 6 and it's an open circle. And so I'm just going to connect those. So this is method 1. Okay, so let's do the next one using method 2. So write this on your paper. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clear the middle. So I know when I'm solving equations, I always do addition subtraction first. So I'm going to add 5 to all parts of that inequality. So the signs are opposite, so therefore I'm going to subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2, and the 5 is larger number and it's positive. Bring my 2k down, and then bring my other inequality sign down. And now I have 7 plus the positive 7, positive 5. I'm going to add, the signs are the same. So I have 12. So now I'm going to divide by 2, and 2 is positive, so I don't have to flip the signs. So I have k with a coefficient of 1, because 2 over 2 is 1. 2 over 2 here is 1. And then 12 divided by 2 is 6. So now I'm just going to go ahead and graph it. Whoops. Grab my tool. There it is. Okay. All right, so I know here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. And so my endpoint is open. And then, so that's my minimum. My maximum value is open as well. And they're just connected together.